Whew, my heart almost skipped a beat. I thought maybe I just lost that fucking previous video I was recording. Whoops. I cussed. Well, I guess this video will get demonetized before it was even monetized to begin with. Oh well. Anyway, it's the Ramble Manager back to bring another track tonight. And following up from my previous video going on about Mass Effect Andromeda's potential stacking of movement speed and my origins of being addicted to speed, um, I wanted to make a semi-somber video here. I like to think that every gamer has a favorite weapon from their various gaming worlds. My case, I love the Easy Gun from Metal Gear Solid 3. I love the Berettas in Max Payne, just because you dual wield them and it feels like a gun that Max would use, for the rest of his life or some shit. I don't know. I love the Blades of Chaos from God of War, particularly God of War 2's Blade of Chaos from the God Armor. I love the Super Shotgun from Doom 2016 Doom Eternal. But in terms of favorite weapons, I'm talking about weapons specifically you would use even if there was clearly a definitive weapon that you'd use throughout the entire game, no matter how much of an improvement it would be. Let's say, for example, Kingdom Hearts 2. As soon as I would lock the Oathkeeper blade, I would always use it, just to make sure. I want to make sure this is the right key blade here. Yep, that one. Basically, the weapon in Kingdom Hearts 2 that Kyrie, I believe, gave you. It's like a silver-ish blade that, has like a star at the end, or like something that looks similar to a star. There was just something about that blade in particular that I just loved, that I always made that a permanent weapon that I would use every time as soon as I would unlock it. And what other weapons are there? Alright, in the case of, say, Assassin's Creed 2, I would always throw all my weapons away and I would just stick with the fucking hidden blades. Mostly because I loved, making Ezio look like a harmless man with no weapons at all, but he'd always have that surprise up his sleeve. But yeah. To get on with the fucking video here, my preferred weapon in Mass Effect, the Mass Effect series, was always the M96 Mattock rifle. And the origins start off from Mass Effect 2, because if I'm right, there was apparently a high-powered DLC pack that was released back in the day when the game first released on Xbox and PC, apparently. And that weapon gave you, a high-powered outfit that would increase your weapon damage, I guess. And then it gave you, a couple weapons. Chief among them, the weapon that stood out the most to me was the Mattock rifle. And in Mass Effect, at least in the older Mass Effect games, there always was, a fine balance. There was always, a balancing act. You could always use, a gun like the Avenger, where it wouldn't have that much damage, but it would have a great rate of fire and ammo capacity. Or you can go something along the lines of the Revenant, which was, a light machine gun, where maybe it didn't do as much damage, or maybe it did, similar damage, but it had a massive magazine capacity. But it offset it with the fact that, it had, a shit ton of recoil. There was, balancing acts between the statistics. In comes the Mattock rifle, where it had a piss-poor amount of ammo. Compared to, the 160 or 200 ammo of, an M8 Avenger, the Mattock only had, maybe 100 rounds in the spare, 20 in the magazine. You only had, a few clips worth of ammo. But the damage was stellar. Combine that with adrenaline rush for a soldier, and you always landed, weak point shots. You were basically killing enemies within a couple fucking rounds. I don't know if it was because of that particular play style of like taking it slow and making your shots count, or um, just the style of the gun. Because to me, the Mattock rifle just looks infinitely better compared to any other gun. It looks like just like a normal fucking rifle with the barrel and how bulky it is. It just looks more aesthetically pleasing compared to like the M8 Avenger. When I look at the M8 Avenger, it looks like I could snap it in half with like that middle ground where it's at. Obviously, as I was playing Andromeda, like apparently the thermal heat sinks at the top of the gun. Like there's an ejection port that opens up and you take the thermal clip out to put a new one in, and I guess the barrel for the normal gun's underneath it. But just looking at the style of it, it just does not feel right. Again, it looks like it snap it in half. It just does not feel right. So I was never a huge fan of the M8 Avenger. Given I'm using it now a shit ton in the co-op mode for Andromeda, only because as the years gone on, I kind of like try to put the aesthetics in the background in terms of raw performance. And sadly, once you start upgrading the Avenger a little bit, it is relatively useful in the earlier stages. Obviously, I'm going to need something way better if I'm going to go up through the ranks. But now, I think shit is going to evolve. I may have found my replacement. But oh yes, going back to Mass Effect 2 here. Sorry, I know, going off the tangents and breaking up here. The Mattock was still my favorite weapon even going into Mass Effect 3, especially since I could level it up all the way to 10. So it gave it a little bit more max ammo and damage to make it worthwhile. Now, of course, there is a little brother to it, the Cerberus Harrier, which, if I'm right, can be used in single player. I don't know. But I remember that weapon being in multiplayer. It was basically like a Cerberus-themed Mattock rifle. And for some odd reason, I love Cerberus gear in the Mass Effect universe. I kind of like the idea of like using Cerberus-themed items to show my allegiance to him at first. But then in the back of my head, like as Mass Effect 3 becomes, like when you go into Mass Effect 3, obviously Cerberus is like the main antagonistic force up there of the Reapers. I always like the idea of like using Cerberus weapons and armor against them, like using their own tech against them to fuck them up. So I think I used like the Harrier for a little bit, but there was just something like that damage fall off that I didn't really like it. And I don't know if the Cerberus Harrier returns in, Andromeda, but who knows? Also, it's kind of funny because I think I got the Mattock back in the multiplayer for Andromeda, but I haven't used it yet because I was just, as soon as I saw like the massive decrease in ammo, I was just like, no, I'd rather just keep using the Avengers. At least I'll have some spare ammo to use. But needless to say, the Mattock was just my main bread and butter. It was my main gun to use up there with the Phalanx, another heavy-hitting weapon that was introduced in Mass Effect 2 that I would also use in Mass Effect 3, again, because of its fucking damage potential. And because the Phalanx had badass laser sight that would, come on when you aim the gun. I always fucking love that. Fucking beautiful. I love that blue laser sight. But, sadly, there has to be an evolution. Sometimes you have to move on. Case in point, I learned a little bit of history about Andromeda, apparently. And for Andromeda, there was apparently a gun that wasn't in the base game, but I guess may have been a cutscene. I'm theorizing it's for like the ending cutscene. The gun is no other than the X5 Ghost. Now, of course, I haven't used it yet. I'm only speculating, but I'd like to think if the stats are true on paper, I may have found the spiritual successor to the Mattock. It has similar appearance to the M8 Avenger. That was the basis for it. But at least, in terms of like the split banana here, apparently, it looks like it's a smaller split. Like they managed to like fill in that gap a little bit so it doesn't look as weird. So I appreciate that. It looks like there's a handguard for the handle. That looks even better. The white and black and blue feel for it makes it, aesthetically pleasing for the Andromeda initiative. And on top of all that, I'm comparing the damage between the Mattock fully upgraded and the X5 Ghost, for single player at least. Basically, this is what it comes down to. I can either gain a 25 to 30% increase in damage compared to the X5 Ghost. I can do 25 to 30% more damage every round by using the Mattock, or I can go for the X5 Ghost and gain a 50% increase in firing rate, have fully automatic fire, gain like quadruple the magazine capacity, double the ammo reserves, and on top of all that, the real thing that kind of fucking caught my attention was essentially it's Hyperion guns in practice. What I mean by that is in a different game, Borderlands 2, when you got a Hyperion brand gun, when you held the trigger down, your accuracy would improve and the recoil would go in the inverse direction. So basically, there would be no recoil. That's what the Ghost is. Apparently, it has a special mechanic where the more you fire the gun down, the more accurate it becomes and the less recoil it generates to the point where it's a pinpoint, on target gun. Now I kind of see why people have been using it in multiplayer. Besides the potential fact that apparently it's available in like a Turian DLC pack that you can buy, so basically you can like pay your way to victory. But I'm not doing that. I paid $13 for the game on Steam. I'm not gonna fucking, cheat my way to victory. But no. I'm looking at those statistics for the Ghost. On top of that, in terms of weight, if I'm right, the Mattock goes down to 15 weight. The fucking Ghost could go down to 10. And here's the real sad bit, right? I'm looking at the Ghost, and I'm like, okay, how much can I improve the ammo that much more? In terms of single player, I've been looking at the heatsink, the vintage heatsink, for my infant ammo craze as well. Another thing that I love besides increase in movement speed. I just love endless ammo. If I get the heatsink, it cuts my ammo down by 60%. Okay, that's sad. I'm looking at the mods that I could potentially put on a crafted X5 Ghost. So I'm thinking, okay, in my pre-planning, vintage heatsink, cool. The AUG where I can get 2 extra mods, totaling 4 mods in total I can put onto a Ghost. Awesome. And then whatever third fucking thing I want to put on. I think I'm going to go for incendiary ammo, because if it's just a flat out 25% damage increase, and maybe an improvement to damage towards, like, armored enemies, I'll take that. But anyway, here's the kicker. There is a heavy magazine mod in single player where it improves my ammo by 70 fucking percent. So, okay, 60% reduction from vintage heatsink, 70% from magazine increase. Okay, guess what? I'll get a net increase of 10%. So now I go from like 75 rounds for a magazine capacity up to around 82, which means from like a squad boost or whatever, I could probably have around 100 fucking rounds of continuous fire before the fucking heatsink just overheats. Here's the kicker, which I just laughed about. With said magazine mod, there's 2 magazines. Apparently there's like 3 different magazine upgrades. There's a normal one, then there's a heavy one, there's another one, which reduces the stability gun. No thank you. I can go for the normal magazine, which is a straight up 50% increase the magazine capacity. Okay, not too bad. Or I can go for the heavy mag, which increases it by 70, which is a lot bigger compared to 50, if you know how to do simple math. But it conveys a 10% increase to weight for that gun. And I'm thinking here, gee willikers, Batman. 10% of 10 is 1 fucking point. I'm sorry. I'll take a 1 point increase to weight for the Ghost just so I can have a behemoth of a magazine capacity. Thank you kindly. And it gets even worse from there, because apparently there's like a war between infinite ammo AUGs and that's the vintage heatsink and the bioconverter, which basically all it is that when you go through your whole magazine, it just instantly refreshes it apparently, and you lose 5% of your health. And I'm thinking here, okay, if I get the tech support upgrade from a passive and the combat fitness passive, I'm assuming I can increase my maximum HP regen to the point where it can go up to like around 50 or 60% of the bar. If I'm right, your health only regenerates up to like 30%. So I'm thinking if there's a 50% increase from combat fitness and 50% from tech support or whatever, if I'm remembering correctly, assuming that it's additional, it's a 100% increase. So, okay, my max health will go from 30% to 60% recoverable. So long as I'm in cover and I have all these passives boosted to increase my health regen, even if I'm going through ammo at an alarming rate with turbocharge or whatever, by the time I probably go through that extensive magazine, that 5% loss will just recover instantly while I'm in cover. And let me go for another kick here. That's the only thing that you lose. You lose a 5% health when your gun's reloaded. If I'm going from, say, if it's in the single player game, a 25% increase in my magazine capacity, plus 70% from the heavy magazine alone, I'm doing the math in my head here, I'm probably going to have about 140 to 150 rounds in this fucking assault rifle alone. Needless to say, it's going to take me a long time to go through that ammo. And even if I do, I'm basically like 150 rounds per 5% of my health loss. So it's like I'm going for a juggling act here right now. But all this shit combined, I'm sorry to say it, my Mac Talk's been dethroned. Now, yes, there's probably various other weapons. I saw the PAW, a remnant tech weapon built by the Andromeda Initiative, used in co-op. This motherfucker was tearing enemies up throughout the entire match with it. And last night I got blessed from an arsenal pack, and I got the Shadow sniper rifle, a remnant sniper rifle that has infinite ammo. Needless to say, I fucking love it. But I'm a simpleton guy. I'm kind of like I'm similar to like my olden self, where I only love to use pistols. I used to spec out in pistols in whatever game I was playing, whether it be Max Payne or the fucking pit bulls from Just Cause 1, to just like various other games where I could become an overpowered badass with pistols. Especially something like Metal Gear Solid or Payday. Well, Payday 2 before assault rifles became king. Even something like Fallout New Vegas, where I would just use nothing but the Maria. I wouldn't even care about grenades or anything. I would just use the little guy, the pistol, because I felt like with pistols, I would just become a fucking badass. Like one man with a handgun going up against legions of enemies with fully automatic rifles. It's a John McClane effect. That's where I get the inspiration from. Like John McClane using a 15-round revolver. I think they said that in the film. Like I think one of the bad guys mentioned like some sort of cop using a revolver to kick everybody's ass or some shit. I'm like, he's not using a revolver. He's using a semi-automatic Beretta. It was one of those nitpicks. I don't know. But anyway, I'm a simpleton. I like to use conventional arms, given the guns in Mass Effect are far from conventional. Like, again, they're using, like, Mass Effect fields to shoot pieces of shrapnel at lightning speed here. Ain't nothing conventional about it. But, similar to Fallout, I wouldn't use energy weapons. I'd only use ballistics. So, in terms of, Mass Effect, those Milky Way weapons are as close to ballistic projectiles that I can get. So the X5 Ghost, by all accounts, is probably going to be my new favorite. And coincidentally, with the Expanded Galaxy mod, or probably some sort of mod pack for the Legendary Edition, there is too a weapon mod pack where it brings the Ghost and some Andromeda armors into Mass Effect 3. So, needless to say, I have a lot of modding to do when I get that Legendary Edition, because, boyo, I'd want to use the Ghost in Mass Effect 3. Is it completely aneuristic to the fucking timeline? Absolutely. But with how badass the Ghost sounds like it is on paper, I'm sorry, Matt Talk, but you just got dethroned for probably one of my new favorite weapons in the Mass Effect universe, that is. But holy fuck, I can talk for a very long time. My mouth is getting dry. I just wanted to ramble about some of my favorite weapons in some gaming. The Maria is another gun. Totally forgot about that gun. That's like one of my go-to favorites because I would just break New Vegas with a check glitch to get like a shit ton of perks to increase my damage. I would just literally go through the entire Mojave using nothing but the Maria because I'd have endless amounts of 9mm ammo. But I would break that shit down with the Gunrunner's perk so I can make jacket hollow points. Essentially like doubling my damage with the ammo, but the increase to damage threshold wouldn't be that bad on most enemies. So essentially, so long as that damage would be above the armor, I can just basically break the armor and just keep doing fuckloads of damage. It was basically beneficial to use jacket hollow points for the Maria. But anyway, usual YouTube chant. What are your guys' favorite weapon? What is the weapon that you guys would always use in a video game, even if there was something clearly better? What was your guys' preferred weapon? But anyway, that's all for today, hopefully. The Ramblin' Manager is clocking out yet again. See y'all next time. See ya!